Something is shifting in the Middle East and South Asia that most people are not paying close attention to, and that is a mistake, because what is happening right now between Iran, America, and the regional powers gathering in Pakistan could determine the fate of an entire part of the world for the next decade. Let us begin with a question. When was the last time Iran publicly told America exactly where the line is, and what happens if that line is crossed? That moment is happening right now. And the fact that Pakistan has become the diplomatic address for some of the most consequential conversations in the region tells you everything about how dramatically the balance of power is shifting. This is not just another round of Middle East tension. This is something older, deeper, and far more dangerous coming to the surface. Iran has made its position clear. In the backdrop of ongoing American pressure, through sanctions, military posturing, and the broader conflict still burning across Gaza and the wider region, Tehran has drawn what it is calling a non-negotiable line. Iranian officials have signaled that any direct military strike on Iranian soil or any attempt to permanently neutralize its nuclear program by force will not be treated as a surgical operation that Iran quietly absorbs. It will be treated as an act of war that triggers a full regional response. That is not rhetoric for domestic consumption. That is a message being delivered through diplomatic backchannels, public statements, and the movement of assets across the region, all at the same time. To understand why Iran is drawing this line now, you have to understand what Iran has been watching over the past 2 years. It watched America support a military campaign in Gaza that reshaped how the Arab world thinks about American credibility. It watched Hezbollah, one of its most powerful regional allies, absorb significant damage in Lebanon. It watched Syria go through another phase of transformation that reduced Iranian influence in a country Tehran had invested in for over a decade. And through all of that, Iran watched its own economy buckle under the weight of sanctions that have not been lifted despite years of negotiation and compromise. Iran is not drawing a red line from a position of comfort. It is drawing it from a position of strategic calculation. Tehran understands that if it does not establish a clear deterrent now, before any further escalation, it risks being perceived as a power that can be struck without consequence. And in the geopolitics of the Middle East, that perception alone can be enough to invite the very attack you are trying to prevent. So the red line is not just a warning, it is a survival strategy. Now here is where Pakistan enters the picture, and this is the part of the story that deserves far more attention than it is receiving. Pakistan is not a neutral country in the traditional diplomatic sense. It is a nuclear-armed state sitting at the intersection of the Middle East, Central Asia, and South Asia. It has deep historical relationships with Saudi Arabia, strong economic ties with China, a complicated but real connection to Iran through trade, cultural links, and a shared border. And it has a long-standing security relationship with the United States that has been under enormous strain for years. That combination of relationships makes Pakistan one of the very few countries in the world that can sit at the same table as all of these powers without immediately being dismissed by any one of them. The fact that regional conversations are now gravitating toward Pakistan, whether through direct diplomatic visits, multilateral frameworks, or back-channel communication, signals something important. The traditional centers of Middle East diplomacy are not working. Washington's credibility as an honest broker has been deeply questioned across the Muslim world. European powers are largely on the sidelines. The United Nations lacks the political leverage to shape outcomes on the ground. So the vacuum is being filled by regional actors. And Pakistan, with its unique positioning, is becoming one of the platforms where those conversations are happening. This is not the first time Pakistan has played this kind of quiet but critical role. During the Cold War, Pakistan was a crucial conduit for American communication with China. During the Afghan peace process, Islamabad was a facilitator whether Washington liked it or not. Now, as the Middle East enters what may be its most volatile phase since 2003, Pakistan is once again being drawn into the center of something much larger than its immediate borders. But let us be honest about what Pakistan faces in this role. Being a diplomatic hub sounds powerful on paper. In reality, it comes with enormous pressure. Every major power that passes through Islamabad or engages Islamabad carries expectations. Saudi Arabia wants Pakistan's political support and military cooperation. Iran wants to ensure Pakistan does not become a platform for hostile operations against Tehran. China wants stability and protection of its massive CPEC investment corridor. America wants Pakistan's cooperation on counterterrorism and regional containment. And Pakistan's own people are dealing with an economic crisis that has left millions struggling to afford basic necessities. Balancing all of those interests while staying functional as a state is one of the most complex diplomatic challenges any country can face. Pakistan is living inside that challenge right now. So what does this mean for the broader region? The gathering of regional powers, whether formally or informally, around the crisis emerging from Iran's red line and America's response tells us that the old order of Middle East management is breaking down. For decades, the United States served as the ultimate guarantor of regional security architecture. American naval presence in the Gulf, American bases across the region, American military and financial support for key allies. All of this created a system that, however imperfect, provided a kind of ceiling on how far any conflict could escalate. That ceiling is cracking, not because America has suddenly become weak, but because American political will to bear the costs of regional engagement is no longer reliable or consistent. The wars in Iraq and Afghanistan left deep scars on American domestic politics. The debate inside the United States about its role in the world is genuinely unresolved. And regional powers, from Iran to Saudi Arabia to Turkey to the Gulf states, have all read that uncertainty and started building their own redundancies, their own alliances, their own deterrents. What you are watching now is the natural consequence of that shift. Regional powers are no longer waiting for Washington to set the rules. They are coming to the table themselves, negotiating directly, drawing their own lines, and creating new facts on the ground before any American policy direction becomes clear. Iran's red line is part of that larger story. Tehran is not just warning America. It is also sending a message to every regional actor watching closely, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Israel, Turkey, and yes, Pakistan, that Iran intends to remain a major power in this region and will not accept being dismantled diplomatically or militarily without a fight that reshapes the entire region in the process. Who gets affected by all of this, and how? The most immediate impact falls on ordinary people across a region already exhausted by conflict. In Gaza, every escalation at the broader geopolitical level delays the possibility of reconstruction, aid, and stability. In Lebanon, a country already in economic collapse, further regional instability makes recovery even harder to imagine. In Iran itself, the population that has suffered under sanctions for years faces the prospect of even more pressure if tensions escalate rather than de-escalate. In Pakistan, the economic stakes are direct. Any disruption to Gulf remittances, money sent home by millions of Pakistani workers in Saudi Arabia and the UAE, would be devastating for households already struggling. Any escalation that affects oil prices hits Pakistan's import bill at a moment when foreign exchange reserves are fragile. And any pressure from either America or China to take sides forces a country that has spent years trying to avoid that binary choice into an impossible position. In the United States, the political stakes are also real. Another Middle East crisis, especially one that involves Iran, nuclear tensions, and regional escalation, lands in the middle of an American political environment that is deeply divided about foreign engagement. The American public, by and large, has no appetite for another prolonged military commitment in the region, but geopolitical pressures rarely wait for domestic political readiness. What happens next is the question everyone with a stake in this region is trying to answer. There are two broad trajectories. The first is that the diplomatic channels being built, however informal, however fragile, actually hold. Iran and America find a way to communicate through intermediaries, de-escalate the immediate pressure points, and arrive at some kind of temporary equilibrium that prevents direct military confrontation. In that scenario, Pakistan's role as a facilitating platform becomes more important. The Gulf states quietly push for calm because their economic models depend on stability, and the region buys itself time to figure out a longer-term framework. The second trajectory is that the red lines get crossed. Through miscalculation, through domestic political pressure on any side, or through a third actor deciding that the moment of maximum confusion is the right moment to act. In that scenario, the regional powers currently gathering around tables in places like Islamabad would face a situation that no amount of diplomacy can easily reverse. A direct Iranian-American confrontation, even a limited one, would send shockwaves through global energy markets, trigger massive population movements, and force every country in the region to make choices they have been carefully avoiding. The reason this moment matters so much is that the window between those two trajectories is narrowing. The diplomatic tools that might bridge the gap, sustained back-channel communication, credible security guarantees, economic relief that reduces Iran's desperation, all require political will and time. And right now, both of those are in short supply. Here is what you should take away from all of this. The Middle East crisis is no longer a regional problem being managed by outside powers. It is becoming a regional crisis being managed by regional powers. with all the unpredictability that comes when experienced nations with deep grievances, nuclear capabilities, and existential stakes are left to negotiate their own future without a reliable external referee. Pakistan sitting at that table is a sign of the times. It is a country that did not ask to be at the center of this moment, but finds itself there because of its geography, its relationships, and the collapse of alternatives. Whether Islamabad can navigate that position without being consumed by it is one of the more consequential questions of the next few years. And Iran's red line, drawn clearly, delivered loudly, backed by a regional posture that shows Tehran is not bluffing, is the signal that the old rules no longer apply. The question is not whether the Middle East is changing. It already has. The question is whether the powers now sitting at these tables have the wisdom, the restraint, and the genuine interest in peace that a moment this dangerous demands. History rarely gives second chances when those moments are missed.